Okay, I want to start today with a question that might make some people in the comments uncomfortable. And I want to say that upfront because the discomfort for as a, the discomfort is exactly the point. And when was the last time you said the word period out loud? Like when did you say the word period out loud? Not in a medical setting, not in a whisper, just out loud in normal conversations. The way you would say headache or fever or cough. Because for a lot of people, the answer is never or almost never. And for something that happens to half the world's population every single month, for most of their lives, that silence is extraordinary. Menstruation is one of the most normal biological processes in the human body, and it is not a disease, it is not a weakness. It is not something shameful, and it is a sign that the body, is functioning. And yet, in so many of our homes, our schools, our workplaces, our communities, it is spoken about in code, hidden, managed in secret. And when it cannot be managed in secret, when the product are not there, when the toilet is not clean, when there is no privacy, women and girls pay a price for that silence. Now, on the 28th of May was World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and this year's theme is Together for a Period Friendly World. And so, I want us to take that same apart together to understand what period friendly world actually looks like, what is standing between where we are and where we need to be, what each of us can do starting today, to help close that gap. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I want you to drop a hello in the comments right now. Tell me where you're watching from, and I have a warm up question for you. Growing up, some, was menstruation spoken about openly in your home, or was it treated like a secret? I want you to type open or secret in the comments, and I am genuinely curious. My name is Loretta Ngwebe, and this is the Safe Delivery Project. We are the Do Take Action family, and every Thursday at 3 p.m. we show up and have conversations. I show up and have conversations that matter, real health, real life, real people. So there is a section I have been looking forward to, and I want it to be, to feel like a conversation, not a lecture. So stay in the comments, engaged, ask questions, share your experiences, because this topic is personal, and personal conversation change things. Now, let me start with the basis, because knowing why this day exists and what it is actually trying to achieve gives everything else more weight. World Menstrual Hygiene Day, which is also called the MHD, is observed every year on the 28th of May. The date is not random. May is the fifth month of the year, representing the average 5 days of a menstrual period, and 28 represents the average length of a menstrual cycle. So the date itself is science, and it is biology built into the calendar. Now, the day was first observed in 2014, launched by an organization called the WASH United, a global health and sanitation advocacy group. So when they started, they had 155 partner organizations, and today the movement has over 1,300 partners, from UNICEF and the World Bank to small grassroots organizations in communities across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And in 2025, the campaign reached 97.1 million people, almost 1 billion people, for a topic that was barely spoken about publicly 10 years ago. The key fact is that 10 years ago, Menstrual hygiene was barely discussed in public health cycles, and today it is a recognized global health, education, and human rights priority. And that change happened because people refused to stay silent. Now, the theme for 2026, together for a period friendly world, and I want to unpack that phrase because it contains more than it looks like. Firstly, together, this team is making the same point that so many of our health conversations come back to: no single person, no single organization, no single government can solve this alone. And so, a period friendly world requires family who talk about menstruation openly, schools that provide clean private toilets and sanitary products, employers who do not expect women to just push through debilitating period pain, healthcare systems that take menstrual health seriously, government that fund access to products, and individuals, including men and boys, who choose to be part of the solution rather than part of the silence. And then secondly, period friendly, what does that actually mean? A period friendly word is a word where menstruation is accepted as a normal fact of life, not something to be hidden or ashamed of. It is a world where everyone who menstruates has access to quality, affordable period products of their choice. When menstrual health education is given from an early age so that girls know what is happening in their bodies and are not afraid of it. And when menstrual health services, diagnosis, treatment, support for conditions like endometriosis or PCOS are available, to everyone who needs them. And then thirdly, we have the world, not just some communities, not just city, not just family that can afford, not just family that can afford it, but everyone. And so the women in rural Nigeria who uses torn clothing as a pad because she cannot afford anything else, and the girl in a displacement camp who has nothing and no privacy. The women in pain every month from undiagnosed endometriosis who has been told she's just being dramatic, and the school girl who stays home 3 to 5 days a month because her school has no private facility. All of them. And so that's why the team says everyone deserves this, and together we can make it real. Now I want everyone to I want to have an interactive moment with everyone watching me live. What does a period friendly world mean to you personally? What would have to change in your community to get there? So I wanted to drop your answers in the comments. Now I'm going to be talking about the breaking the silence and why we don't talk about periods. I want to spend some real time in silence because I think silence is the root of everything else. It is the soil from which every other problem grows. We don't, talk about period. I mean, really, why? It is a normal biological function. It happens to more than half the world's population. It stands around age 12 or 13, or 13 for most girls, and continues until um it continues until the last 40s or clearly 50s, and that is roughly 35 to 40 years of monthly cycles. Oh, please, sorry for this short break. Okay, and so like I said, it happens to more than half the world's population. It starts around age 12 to or 13 for most girls, and continues until the late 40s or early 50s, and that is roughly 35 to 40 years of monthly cycles. So if you do the maths, a woman who has a 5 day period every 28 days, we have a period for approximately two 2,500 days over the course of her life, and that is nearly 7 years, and 7 years total of menstruating, and we are not supposed to talk about it. You can imagine that. And so 500 million women and girls worldwide do not have what they need to manage their period safely, hygienically, and without shame. The root cause, according to menstrual researchers, is stigma, because as long as we cannot talk about it openly, we cannot address it as a systematic level. And so the silence comes from many places, and I'm going to name some of them honestly, because it comes from religion and tradition. And so in many cultures, including many in Nigeria and across Africa, there are traditional beliefs that menstruating women are unclean, as in that they should not cook, should not enter certain spaces, should not touch certain things. And these beliefs vary by community, by religion, by family. And I am not here to attack anyone's tradition, but I am here to say, when a belief causes a girl to feel ashamed of her own body, or keeps her out of school, or prevents her from seeking medical help for a health condition that is affecting her, that belief has a cost, and the cost is paid by girls and women. So the silence also comes from education, or the lack of it, because many girls in Nigeria receive their first period with no prior preparations. No one has told them what to expect. No one has explained what is happening in her body. And so when the blood comes, the first response is often fear, confusion, sometimes shame. And in that moment, in that critical first experience, the message that menstruation is something to hide is deeply stamped in. So the silence comes from men and boys, and from the embarrassment that some men feel about periods, from the jokes, from the are you on your period? Like you see some men asking, are you on your period? Questions used to dismiss, and it dismisses a woman's valid emotions, and from the fathers who never spoke to their daughters about it, because it was women's business. That silence for men and boys teaches girls this is something to hide from half the world, and that lesson is powerful and damaging. And so the silence comes from the healthcare system also. Menstrual pain is one of the most commonly dismissed symptoms in medicine. Women who present to doctors with severe period pain, the kind that makes them their ability to function, are frequently told it is normal. Everyone has pain, take paracetamol, but endometriosis, no, a condition where tissue similar to the urine lining grows outside the uterus, causing severe pain, affects approximately in 1 in 10 women, and the average time from first symptoms to diagnosis is 7 to 10 years. And so 7 to 10 years of pain dismissed because we have normalized suffering when it comes to menstruation. So I want to say something clearly. The normalization of menstrual pain, the culture of just push through it, and everyone goes through it. It is no is not compassion. It is negligence, wearing the costumes um of resilience. And so pain that significantly disrupts a person's ability to live their life is not normal. It is a symptom, and it deserves to be taken seriously. And that is what breaking the silence means. It means talking about period the way we talk about any other aspect of health. It means educating boys and men so that menstruation is not mysterious or embarrassing. It means building health systems that take women's pain seriously. It means creating schools and workplaces and public spaces where managing your period is easy, private, and free from shame. And that is a period friendly world. And it starts with the conversation we're having right now. Now I'm going to ask anyone who has ever dismissed or or minimized your period pain, told you it was normal when it was really affecting your life. Type yes or no in the comments. Now I'm going to talking about the period poverty, what it is and why it matters. I want to introduce a term that I think everyone watching today should know and use. Period poverty, it sounds like a policy term, the kind of thing discussed in conference room. But it is a description of a very real, very personal, very daily experience that millions of women and girls in Nigeria and across Africa live with. Period poverty, is a lack of access to the products, education, facilities, and supports needed to manage menstruation safely and with dignity. It has two main dimensions. The first is economic, not being able to afford sanitary products, and then the second is infrastructural, not having access to a clean private toilet, clean water, and a safe space to manage your period. And so in Nigeria, a large proportion of women and girls in low income households cannot consistently afford sanitary pads. A single pack of disposable pads costs between 800 to 1,000 naira, which for a woman with very little income can represent a significant portion of daily earnings every month. Now I'm going to make this concrete because when a girl cannot afford or access sanitary products, what does she actually do? The answer is she uses torn clothes, old rags, tissue paper, leaves, newspaper, anything she can find to absorb the blood. And these improvised materials are not sanitary, they can cause infections. So they require frequent changes that are difficult in school environments with no private toilet, and they make a girl feel deeply that her body is a problem that the world has not thought to solve. And then there are girls who simply stay home, who miss school for 3, 4, 5, 6 days every month. Why? They have their period, because the alternative, going to school without adequate protection, without a clean private toilet, without the ability to manage their period discreetly, is too humiliating, and so too risky, too much. And so research across sub-Saharan Africa consistently shows that menstrual hygiene is a significant driver of school absenteeism for girls. Some studies estimate that girls miss an average of Oh, I'm sorry, so sorry for the short break. Like I said, research across sub-Saharan Africa consistently shows that menstrual hygiene is a significant driver of a school absenteeism for girls. Some studies estimate that girls miss an average of 4 to 5 days of school per month because of menstrual related issues. And so over a school year, that is approximately 40 to 50 days, and over a secondary school career, that can add up to half a year of lost education. And so half a year of lost education, not because of lack of intelligence, not because of lack of ambition, but because of a broken toilet and an unaffordable pad. So I want to name something else that period poverty does that, is less visible but just as damaging. It affects how a girl sees herself. And when you spend years managing your body in secret, improvising in shame, missing school while others go, being told that what you're experiencing is too embarrassing to speak about, it shapes your self image. It tells you repeatedly that your body is a problem and that your needs are inconvenience and that you are somehow less entitled to dignity and comfort than other people. That message is false. Like seriously, it is false because but it is delivered with such consistency through broken systems, through silence, through the absence of products and facilities, and that many girls internalize it. And that internalization has long term consequences for confidence, for academic performance, for professional ambition, for how women see their own worth. And that is why period poverty is not just a health issue, it is an education issue, it's an economic issue, it is a gender equality issue, and it is a human rights issue. And so the right to manage your period safely, privately, and with dignity is not a luxury. It is a basic human right, and so in 2026, it should not still be a privilege. Now I'm going to talk about a period and also your health because from the social and structural side of menstrual health to the personal and medical, because one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is understand your own cycle, know what is normal for you, know when something has changed, know the signs that your body is trying to tell you something. And so the menstrual cycle is a monthly series of changes that a woman's body goes through in preparation for the possibility of pregnancy. And so the cycle begins on the first day of a period, that is day one. And so it ends the day before the next period begins. So the average cycle is 28 days, but a normal cycle can range from 21 to 35 days. So a cycle that is consistently shorter or longer than the range is worth discussing with a healthcare provider. During the cycle, the uterus builds up a lining called the endometrium in preparation for a possible pregnancy. An egg is released from the ovary, and that is called ovulation. And so it typically happens around day 14 in a 28 day cycle. So if the egg is not fertilized, the lining sheds, and that shedding is the period. So the period typically lasts for 3 to 7 days. So the key fact is that soaking through a pad or tampon every hour for several consecutive hours or passing large clothes regularly is defined as heavy menstrual bleeding and should be evaluated by a doctor. And so heavy bleeding can cause anemia, which causes fatigue, weakness, and difficulty concentrating. Now, let me talk about four conditions, that affect menstrual health, things that affect millions of women in Nigeria and are consistently underdiagnosed, and undertreated. Some period pain is normal, the uterus constructs to shed its lining, and so this those contraction cause cramping, mild to moderate cramping, that responds to a painkiller and does not significantly interfere with daily life is within the range of normal. But period pain that makes you vomit, keeps you in bed, makes you miss work or school, or does not respond to over the counter pain relief, that is not just bad cramps. That is di Dimenorrhea. It is a medical condition, and so it deserves medical attention. And also we have endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition where tissue similar to the uterine lining grows outside the uterus, on the ovaries. And so fallopian tube, bladder, bowels, or other areas in the pelvis. And so every month that tissue responds to the hormonal cycle in the same way the uterine lining does. So it builds up and bleeds, but because it is outside the uterus, the blood has nowhere to go. And so this causes severe pain, inflammation, scarring, and in many cases, fertility problems. So endometriosis affects approximately 1 in 10 women, meaning millions of women in Nigeria alone, and yet the average time from first symptoms to diagnosis is 7 to 10 years. Like 7 to 10 years of a woman being told her pain is normal. You can imagine that. And so the signs to watch for, severe pelvic pain before and during your period, pain during or after sex, pain when urinating or having a bowel movement during your period, very heavy period, fatigue, and difficulty getting pregnant. So if several of these, if several of these apply to you, please see a doctor and ask specifically about endometriosis. You're allowed to name the condition you suspect. And also we have PCOS. PCOS is an hormonal condition that affects how the ovaries work. It is one of the most common causes of irregular periods in women of reproductive age. Women with PCOS may have infrequent period, very long cycles, or no period at all. And so they may also experience acne, excess hair growths on the face and body, weight gain, and difficulty getting pregnant. So PCOS is manageable, but it is first on the face and body, weight gain, and difficulty getting pregnant. Like I said, so if your cycle is consistently irregular, varying widely from month to month, or going for long period without a period when you are not pregnant, please seek an evaluation. And so next we have the PMS and PMDO. In the days before a period, many women experience bloating, breast tenderness, headaches, mood changes, irritability, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and fatigue. So this is PMS, which is premenstrual syndrome caused by hormonal shifts in the second half of the menstrual cycle. PMS is common, but severe PMS, the kind that significantly disrupts relationships, work, or mental health, is called PMDD, which is the premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is a recognized medical condition and it can be treated. It is not just being moody. Like I said, it can be treated. So your period is one of the most consistent health signals your body gives you. So you track it, pay attention to it, know your normal, and when something changes, when the pain is new or worse, when the bleeding is heavier, when your cycle becomes irregular, do not wait it out. Go and be seen. Your reproductive health deserves the same attention as any other part of your body. Okay, I'm going to ask some questions, so please drop your answers in the comment section. How many of you have experienced period pain that was dismissed? Pain that you were told was normal, but that really affected your life? I want you to type yes or no in the comments. Now I want to get very practical, because today is on the 28th of May was World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and hygiene is in the title, and yet so many women were never formally taught basic menstrual hygiene. So let's just talk about it, not in a clinical way, like in a real everyday, and this is how you take care of your body, you know well. Now I'm going to talk about disposable sanitary pads. Disposable sanitary pad are the most widely used products in Nigeria and across Africa. Change your pad every 4 to 6 hours. Even if it does not look full, leaving a pad on too long creates a warm, moist environment that allows bacteria to grow and can cause infections and odor. Wrap used pads and dispose of them in a bin. Do not flush them as they block drains. And then we also have tampons. Tampons are inserted into the vaginal canal to absorb blood internally. Change every 4 to 8 hours and never leave a tampon in for more than 8 hours, as it increases the risk of a rare but serious condition called toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome. And let me say this clearly, tampons do not damage the hymen and do not affect virginity. That is a myth. So please do not let that myth prevent anyone from accessing a product that might work well for them. And then we also have the menstrual cups. Menstrual cups are reusable silicone cups inserted into the vaginal canal to collect blood rather than absorb it. A single cup, properly cared for, can last up to 10 years. They are cost effective, environmentally friendly, and increasingly available in Nigeria. So empty and rinse every 8 to 12 hours, sterilized by boiling between cycles. Breathable clothes pads. Yes. Breathable cloth pads are pads made of absorbent fabric that can be washed and reused. So they are affordable and sustainable. So wash with soap and hot water after each use and dry fully in the sun. Do not store damp clothes pads. Please wash and dry it under the sun. Now, the key fact is that a single woman can use approximately 11,000 disposable pads or tampons over her lifetime. Reusable options like cups and cloth pads are far more affordable over time and significantly reduces environmental waste. So we're going to talk about the general hygiene during your period. That is, what are the general hygiene during your period? You wash your external genitalia, the vulva, with warm water at least twice a day during your period. You do not need soap inside the vaginal canal. The, vi- the vagina is self-cleaning, and soap use internally can disrupt the natural bacterial balance and cause infections. External washing only. Like you see some people when they are washing the vagina, they dip their hand inside with like don't do that because it can cause infection. And also change your products regularly. This is the single most important thing you can do to prevent infections and odor. You see some people, they can wear pad for the whole day simply because it's not fully soaked, and it is very, very, very risky. So change your pad every 4 to 6 hours to avoid getting an infection. And also wash your hand truly before and after changing your period products. Wash your hand thoroughly. Wash with soap and water. Wear clean, breathable underwear. Cotton where possible, and avoid tight synthetic fabrics that trap heat and moisture. Watch for signs of infection, yellow or green discharge, a foul or unusual odor. Yeah, if you notice any foul or unusual odor, itching, burning, or unusual pain during your period can be sign of a vaginal infection. So these are very common and very treatable, but they need a healthcare provider to assess. So do not ignore them. Also, drink water, rest when you need to, and be kind to yourself because your body is doing significant work during your period. Fatigue and mild discomfort are normal, always listening to your body. And going to ask also in comment that what menstrual product do you currently use most? Is it pad? Is it tampon, cup, clothes, or other? Please drop in the comments. Now I'm going to be talking about the men, boys, and menstruation. The men, boys, and menstruation. I want to take a few minutes to speak specifically to the men and boys who are watching today because a period friendly world is not built by women alone. It is built by everyone, and that means men are part of this conversation. So if you're a man watching this first of all, thank you. The fact that you are here says something good about you, and I want to talk to you directly. The period of stigma that makes life harder for the women in your life, your mother, your sister, your partner, your daughter, is partly held in place by male discomfort, by the embarrassment some men feel about menstruation, by the jokes, by the dismissal, by the I don't want to hear about this. Responses that teaches girls and women your body is something to hide. But that discomfort is learned, and learned things can be unlearned. So here's what I am asking of the men watching today. Learn the basics, knowing what a menstruation cycle is, understanding that period pain can be genuinely debilitating. So knowing how to respond supportively when a woman in your life is struggling, that makes you a better partner. And so a better father, a better colleague, and a better human being. Do not use menstruation to dismiss women. Are you on your period? You hear some men saying, are you on your period? It's not a clever response to a woman who is angry, who is upset or disagreeing with you. It reduces a legitimate human emotion to a hormonal inconvenience. So do not do that. Support access. Make sure your daughter have what they need. Be supportive when your partner is in pain. Advocate in your organization, your school, your community for the facilities and product that women and girls need. Because if a period friendly world needs men who are allies, who is informed, who are not embarrassed by normal biological function. So you have the power to make the women and girls in your life feel less alone in this. So I want you to use it. And also I'm going to ask the men watching, do you learn anything today that you do not know before? I want you to type yes. And women, is there a man in your life you're going to share this section with? Please tell me who. And please put your answers in the comments right now. Now, we are in the final stretch, and I want to make sure you leave with action, not just information. You know, and so here are 5 things that you can do starting today. I'm going to list out the 5 things that you can do starting today. Firstly, talk about it. Use the word period, use it normally, openly, without lowering your voice, normalizing the conversation is the first step toward everything else. And then secondly, if you have a daughter, niece, younger sister, or any girl in your life approaching puberty, make sure she is prepared. Tell her what to expect. Tell her it is normal. Tell her she can always come to you. So that one conversation could change everything about how she experiences the next 35 years of her life. And thirdly, if you're experiencing menstrual pain that affects your quality of life, please see a doctor. Ask specifically about endometriosis and PCOS if relevant. Do not accept just push through. Push through it as a medical answer because you deserve better than that. And then fourthly, um, if you have the means, donate sanitary products to a school, a community health center, or a woman's shelter near you. Period poverty is real and it is close, so you can help. And then fifth, share this section, send it to a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, because every person who watches this and learns something is one more person who is less likely to stay silent. And so we have been here for about 40 minutes, and I want to say something before I let you go. The silence about menstruation has lasted for a very long time, and so it has been built by religion, by tradition, by embarrassment, by systems that were not designed with women's bodies in mind. It is deep and dismantling, it takes time, but it starts somewhere. And it starts with someone deciding, I will not stay silent about this anymore. I will talk about it normally. I will demand better for myself and for the women around me. And so that is what today's is. That is what this section has been, a refusal to stay silent. And every one of you who watched, who engaged, who shared your experience in the comments, you have been part of that today, and that means that matters to us here. So together for a period friendly world, and not just as a slogan, as a commitment, a world where every girl knows what is happening in her body, where every woman has what she needs, where every period is managed with dignity, where the pain is taken seriously, and where the silence is finally broken. So that world is possible, and we are building it, and today we got a little closer. Please, I want you to like this video, and if today gave you something, leave a comment telling me the one thing you are taking away from this section. I want you to subscribe so you never miss a Thursday, and share this. Please share it, because somewhere out there is a girl who has never been told that her body is not a problem, and and your share might be the reason she finally hears it. So happy World Menstrual Hygiene Day. I'll see you next Thursday. I want you to take care of yourself and take care of each other.